Okay, this is a brief tutorial on how to build a MineFantasy Blast Furnace, because some people find this a little bit confusing. And it is somewhat of a complex structure. I suspect some of the confusion may have to do with changes between versions. You have to use cold vanilla iron in building the blast furnace. In a previous version, this was considered wrought iron in MineFantasy, whereas now it is officially metallic iron, which is supposed to be a purer form of iron and harder to get. So if you're using wrought iron, which is depicted on the web page, on the forum page, it's actually not going to work. You need metallic iron, which is technically vanilla iron. So to start out with, you take your granite, and granite is fairly easy to find in extreme hills. If you don't find extreme hills, you can find it near the bedrock. You may have to mine for a while, but once you find granite, you can easily get at least one stack of granite, probably several, from one deposit, because the deposits are huge. But first you need to make this 3x3 granite platform. And you don't have to dig a hole. You can just place this on top of the ground, but I like to do it like so in order to make it flush with the ground. Then put a block there. This is not something you actually need for the blast furnace to work, but you are going to need it in order to place a block against it. You can remove it afterward, or you can leave it, and it doesn't really make a difference. But you're going to see right now why we need that to place a block against it, because we've put the 3x3 in the bottom, and then we've done something similar again and left a hole, and in that hole we put lava. So to place something over the lava, you're going to need a block to place it against. So this is the beginning of our blast furnace, but obviously we need a lot more for it to actually be a blast furnace. And the other components we have to craft on the anvil. Don't need the shovel anymore, but now we need the hammer. So to start off with, what you need to make are 9 furnace shafts. These are made by a recipe like so. And we need to make 9 of them. So we just go like so, and we start crafting. It's a good idea to go at a moderate speed while you're forging on the anvil. It will only accept hits at a certain rate. I'm not sure what that is, but if you hit it too fast, it will actually waste some of your hammer blows and waste some durability on your hammer without actually getting done particularly faster. So now we have our 9 furnace shafts. And we don't need any of this anymore. So what are we going to do with the 9 furnace shafts? Well, 6 of them are actually going to be put on as shafts, but 3 of them need to be made into other things. So that's why I have the chest, the bloom, and the forge. So we put on the chest in there like so. And start forging, and that makes this our furnace output. Then put in the bloom and a shaft, and that makes this our furnace input. Okay, so we've got our components. We put the furnace output there. We put the fuel storage up against the block. Then we need to put 4 furnace shafts, like so. And then our furnace input, and 2 more shafts. But there is your blast furnace. And for it to work, it actually needs to heat up. So let's test this out. I'm going to put a lever on it in just a second. So first, with fuel storage, so we need to put some fuel in there. There's our fuel, and it's heating. And it's a good idea to build some kind of building or chamber platforms around this, so you don't have to look up like this. But this is just on building the blast furnace. Anything else you want to build to go with it, well, that's up to you and whatever your style is. So let's load this up and see what happens. And it's still heating. One thing you can do is you can put a lever on it. You can actually put levers on both of these to control them independently. But if you turn off this, it's going to stop using its fuel. And so the input's also going to stop because there's not going to be any fuel to power it. But we don't want to do that. We're going to let it heat up. So it's heating, and once it heats, it should start processing. Heating is a slow process, and it does take up some fuel. So it might be a good idea to save up and process it in large batches rather than a little at a time, because as you can see, it takes a little time to heat. And it's going. And you see now that it's going, the smoke comes out, and it's processing. It is actually kind of funny. If you go a little ways away, you can't see the smoke anymore until, poof, there it is. Instant smoke. There we go. It's almost finished with one. It is kind of a slow process, but there we have our pig iron, which we could then put into a bloom to make steel. And there's your blast furnace.